going to be drawing a mature anime lady. So just a reminder, I am using Clip Studio Paint. You can use any drawing program, or you can even just use regular printer paper and pencil. If you are using printer paper, make sure, or just paper in general, just make sure you draw very, very lightly for this first section, the construction lines, so that way when you need to erase anything, it won't be visible in your finished piece. As for me, I'm just going to be using my lowermost layer with a red pen at 3% opacity. That way it's just clearly my construction lines. So just like with anything, we're just going to first start with a circle. Doesn't need to be perfect, this is just construction lines here, so you don't have to take that part too seriously. I will use a ruler here to establish my center line, which we will use to balance everything off of. I already tell my head's probably a little bit too large, so I'm just going to shrink the circle down a little bit. Next, we're going to put in some jaw lines. So widest part of the circle here, about out there. I'm going to give her a little bit more of a boxy face here. Of course, there's many different face shapes for mature characters, but for this one, we're just going to give her a little bit of a stronger, longer jaw here, not so small and cutesy. So we'll throw in little ear placeholders here. Nose, smile. Alright. Guess this jaw is just kind of messed up for me, so I'm going to straighten it out. There we go. So from here, just about a jaw length beneath here, we're going to put our shoulder lines. And then we don't want the ribs to be too much wider than her head. We're going to give like a little teardrop shape here. And try to keep this as even as you can on both sides. And then right here, I'm just going to put this in so we can see where the bottom of the ribs are. Then I'm going to put in 2 small circles just inside of the ribs for our shoulder lines. And then I will connect those about halfway in the circle here. Just for the armpits, and then I will put a little line across them because our chest is going to be below that line. Then, sort of following the roundness of the shoulder, I'm going to come around it and drop in the collarbone from the top there. It'll all be one line. And then I will drop in my neck. I use concave lines for that, but you can use any lines. It's up to you, just whatever looks best to you. Alright, so my neck is kind of small, but my head is also a little bit smaller than it needs to be, so, or too big, so I'll just shrink my head. That looks a little bit better. Although I need to bring this side over more. Alright. I'll suck this one in a little. There we go. So, next, for this character, she's not super tall, but she's not very short either. What we want is we want to take about roughly 1 head height below our rib cage right here, and within that we just want to put a line for the hips here, so roughly 1 head height, like right where this circle would have been, so it's like half of one. Now for this character, I am going to put her hips just barely inside the shoulder circles here. Then, about a jaw length underneath of that, I'll put a marker here and connect these. Then following up and around, I'll do this shape. Lots of little lines, I'm just trying to sketch out the shape that I like. until it looks nice. I'll raise the hips a little bit though. Something like that. Next I'll put 2 small lines just inside here at the bottom, and then 2 more lines just up here at the top, because this is our hip markers. So everything in here is unmovable and firm, so everything that we put in kind of has to work around that. Next I'll put in my stomach line. Gonna be a little bit of a larger stomach, a little bit more meat on our mature characters here. Then I will still drop in, just following the sort of shape here of the rib cage. I'll just bring it down a little bit. Then I will drop in my love handle section here, and this time I'm just going to use a slightly convex line here so it pokes out this way a little. Try to make those even. And again, I'm just using a bunch of lines, so I know that this outside line is the one that I want. From there, we'll go ahead and drop in our legs. So I just use 2 circles there, just somewhere inside of our little hip line here. Draw in 2 lines for the legs. From here we can get a rough estimate on just exactly where our legs are going to plot in. So I have the feet down here, and then the halfway point is going to be our knees. And I'm just going to back up and make sure that that is good. I think that's what I want. So I will put in 2 ovals here for the kneecaps, some little circles for the ankles, and then just some very basic feet here. This isn't a foot tutorial, so I'm just throwing these in as a placeholder. Next, looking at this, I'm going to bring my feet up just a little bit, just so it's a little bit more evenly dispersed here, like so. Then I'll bring that, bring that whole thing up just slightly, because right now her legs are just a little bit too long. There. So, just like with our other characters, we're going to give her the sort of classic anime girl position. However, this time she's going to have much thicker thighs. So this time her thigh is going to cross over this middle section here. And same with her other one. Something like this. Although this needs to wrapped up a little bit better. Like so. And really start wide at the top, and then bring it in down here. Just going to make this a little bit less intense of a inner thigh here. And then same thing over here. Really start strong with your curve, and then bring it in. She has some really thick thighs. Even go a little bit rounder than that. Like this. Something like that. Just trying to keep it as even as I can. Which is a little bit tough here. Much better. Alright. So again, during the sketching portion, I'm just putting in lots and lots of lines, trying to get shapes that I like, and then going from there. This time around, since she's got a little bit more weight. Her calves are going to be just slightly bigger. So I'm going to start with a bump out on my inside calf before I then use that concave line here. Again, a very slight concave line though. And again, I'm going to swoop down at the thigh, and I'm going to give her really strong calves. Like so. Then we'll come up here and attach her glutes right there. And so just barely be poking out. Then I'm going to drop in her arms with her elbows being just under the rib cage, and hands will be roughly even with the tops of these shoulders like this. Then I'm just gonna put in a little hand marker here. Nothing crazy. And shrink these down a little bit because they both got a little bit too big on me. You kind of want them so that if they were open, they would cover the face, but you don't want them too much bigger than that. Like they're not going to cover up the entire head. So roughly like that. Then going to put in the forearm, slightly concave line with a little bulge out. And then we'll attach the bicep like so. Remember, this outside line with the forearm is what's going to point into the elbow and attach it. So make sure you do that. You just kind of follow it. She's got slightly thicker arms than other characters. There. Next, we'll give her a moderate-sized chest. So I'm just going to sort of give myself a swooping little line here so I can get an idea roughly where to place everything. And following our pit line, I will take it and I will bring it out and back in like so. Trying to make like a little teardrop looking shape. Like so. I'm gonna tidy this up. Then I will do the same thing over here. Again, just trying to keep them roughly the same size and trying to keep a natural hanging shape, like so. Then, that is all for our construction line, so now we'll just drop in our hard lines. I'm just going to use black, but you can use whatever color you want, depending on what you're trying to use. Depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're doing like a fan art or something that you're trying to post, and depending on the warmth or coolness of the color palette you're going to use, you might want to consider using either a dark blue or a dark red. But it is up to you. For me, I'm just going to be using black, and I'm not really paying too much attention to the quality and line weight of my line art, since this is just a figure study. I'm more so focused on the overall shape and weight of the character here. Okay, this one's a little bit too big. There is decent, I just need to pull it down a little. Like that. Then I'm going to put in my hands, my finger placements, drop in the forearm. Then we'll follow the bicep up into the shoulder, into the collarbones, and then do the same on this side. Like so. Then our rib line here, our stomach lines, like this. Then I'll put in the hips. Still giving a low point. That kind of breaks up because we've got a very soft character. So I like putting in some sharper hip lines on them because it kind of helps to break up the overall round shape. So it adds a little bit of diversity in your line style. Then we're going to drop in thighs, which you could just start them rounded, or you can give it a little in and out. I guess I'm actually going to start mine just rounded, since her thighs are thick enough that it kind of matches it a little bit better. And I'm going to follow this line. So again, just gonna bump out before I come back in up here. This one I'm gonna start with a little curl before I begin the bump out to the calf. Makes it look a little bit more natural. Then I'll put in my feet. Again, these are just placeholders. Then for your ankle positioning, your inside ankles are a little bit higher than your outside ankles. So I'm just gonna drop them in like so. And I guess I usually put in this bottom part before I do the thighs, but I just didn't do that, but that is fine. Put in the glutes since you'll barely see them. And then last thing is to put in traps. A little bit bigger traps since there's a little bit more weight to carry. But there you go, that is how you would draw a mature anime character. And in part 2, we will look at the back of this same character. So, see you there.